So this is the offset in world position subtracted from the light position. I don't know. This is obviously not working, and I'm obviously not doing this properly. Something is horribly wrong. Like, I've got it basically, like, according to everything that I know, basically what I need is I've got this vector, which is going, this is our center of our object, this is our direction vector for our camera direction, and then we have our looking direction. And we got the dot product for the offset and all that stuff, but basically it's, we take our looking direction we've got the center of our object, we've got our, like the inverse of our look direction, and we add it, and we get this position, and then we take the world space of our object, and we should be able to subtract the two to get our offset. I mean, I guess the offset should just be like the light direction inverted, multiplied by that, and added to the camera vector. I mean, that's supposedly our offset vector. It's just the world position minus this light direction and camera position stuff. So we'd expect this would always be that would be our displacement in world space. And I mean, if we normalized it, Like that is, we're normalizing the vector away from our thing. So that's going to be this is the x coordinate. This is the y coordinate. And this is the z. Which is what we expect. So this is the actual values for this thing. So if we normalize that vector, it's going to go from, it's going to be of magnitude 1. So it's going to be our camera vector crossed with this vector would give us an up vector, but is that really an up vector? Like, we're looking here. I mean, the up vector is literally the up vector, right? Like, the up vector is up. Because when we're looking at this thing straight on, like this needs to be straight up in terms of, like, if we tilted our head or something else, nothing should change. If we turn the angle or something, like, up should still be up. So how do we get just a regular color? It's just overall color? No. I just want the stupid color right here. Make expression constant. Yeah, see, those are all just annoying. The up vector in this case is 0, 0, 1. And the up vector is not 0, 0, 1. Like, the up vector is supposed to be relative. So if this thing's out here, the up vector is not supposed to be straight up and down. It's supposed to be like a curve along the surface. But you're in HC. Yeah, I'm working full time on this. Doesn't mean I'm effective full time at it, but I'm working on it. And I'm not a graphics engineer. I don't pretend to be. I'm a server engineer, so a lot of the stuff, like, I'm getting back in touch with a lot of stuff I did, way back in college horribly. So I'm trying to figure out right now. Basically, I've got a sphere, and I've got a point on this. Like if this is the inside of my sphere, and I'm inside of it, and I'm looking at this sphere, and there's a point there, I kind of want to draw a moon right along that point. But I'm not trying to do it with a mesh. I'm trying to do it with just the shader itself. So the shader knows this location, and it knows, like basically it knows the direction vector the sun is supposed to be at, or the moon is supposed to be at, and all that. And I've already got the material. I just want to, basically map this texture to the inside of this sphere properly, kind of like mapping something onto the outside of the Death Star, but without using a mesh to make the Death Star fire the giant laser, using map to make it have that giant laser port thing. Thanks, Butcher AC. So, we have the vector to this point. We've got our displacement vector from this point. And what I need is basically the vectors that are perpendicular to this thing. So if we cross our up vector with our camera vector, we will get maybe our right vector. No, if we cross our direction vector with our up vector, we'll get our right vector, and then we cross our right vector with our direction vector, we'll get our up vector. To get our right vector, let's call this one right. We're going to cross our light direction with our up vector. That's going to give us our right vector. And then we want to cross our direction vector with our right vector to give us our actual up vector. Alright. And I think we just broke our thing again. Let's go see. Just broke our material saving again, which just, I don't understand. No, supposedly this is what we have. Well, at least our... It's not changing with our camera position anymore, which is what it should be doing. It's all based on this thing here. Our camera vector is working properly. So it's actually not far off from what we need to have. Alright, well I need to grab some more water, and I'll be right back. So, alright. So what's happening? This is going from what, 0? 0? Alright, why don't we clamp it? We'll throw a clamp node on here. Like... So it's starting right there, and it looks like it's going from... We're not getting anything... So that's 0, and that's 1? Maybe we'll have more luck here. Okay, so this is yellow. This vector here. So what is yellow? Well, in RGB, yellow is red and green max. So that's 1? And it's going from 0 to 1? What? I guess this is a unit sphere or something like that. Yeah, I guess it's easier to look at this dot product. So this goes from so that's 0, 0, 1. And these are negative values. Why are all these zeros? Well, we can look at some of these. So the right vector is, if we have the light direction, the right vector is always the same thing. It's always green, and green is equals 0, 1, 0. So that's 1 in the y. So it's saying right is 1 in the y, and up is 1 in the z. And the light source is -1, 0, 0, is what this thing is saying. So if the light's coming right at us, to the left is, or to the right is this direction, and up is this direction, which is correct. Like so, our right vector and our up vector are both the right vectors, or are they? Like, it should be based on the camera. Like, our up vector should be, like, if this camera is coming right at us, then yeah, I mean, those would be our up vectors and all that stuff, but only if we were looking right at the light source. So what we actually want is the direction to the light vector to get our up and our or is up and all that always supposed to be relative to this? Like, this is the way that we'll be texturing this thing onto the sphere, so it should be how we're looking at it determines which direction up and left are? No, it should always be the same. So we have up and right are correct, and we need to, so we've got that. And so we need to dot our displacement vector, basically with that one. Our dot with the up vector should be our y texture coordinate, and the dot with the right vector should be our x texture coordinate. So we're supposed to dot the dot with the right. The dot with up is supposed to be our y texture coordinate, and this, the dot with the right, is supposed to be our x texture coordinate. So what are we doing wrong then? Like, we've got our texture, but it's being stretched to infinity basically. I mean, do we need to normalize our... Do we need to not normalize our displacement vector? And instead of normalizing our displacement vector, like if we don't normalize it, we don't get anything, which is what I would expect. it's probably always 0 or whatever. I mean, it's always really big. And we're going to clamp from 0 to 1, so it's going to be 0 or 1. So I guess it's probably this. We need to take the size of the moon, basically, or whatever. Like, we had this radius here. I'm not seeing this get applied anymore. Well, now I am. Well, the thing is, I'm not seeing this texture get applied. Like, I should be seeing this texture on there. And like, when I divide this out by a larger number, it's actually starting to look like what I want. So it's making me think that something screwed up again with the frickin' preview for the object. Because the normalize is going to give us this direction vector. Yeah, that's what we had. Let's just slot all these things in without the parameterization on them. I still don't get how the texture is showing up inside of the preview for the object, but we're not seeing it inside of the actual object. I mean, with the normalized 0 to 1, so what does this mean? That this is going from 0 to 1. Both the x and y coordinates. I mean, something's got to be wrong with the frickin' math here for something. Like, I must have an initial input be wrong for this to be true, because this shouldn't go from... Like, this is the normalized vector, so you would expect it to just always be in a direction. I mean, this would mean that in this direction it could be 1, but it's more to the right than it is up. So it's just scaled wrong is what it's telling me. So what's going on here is we're dealing with very small numbers. Like, I can't even get this multiply number down small enough for this to actually work. Alright, so I did have the right math. It's just the preview is lying to me by a substantial amount. Alright, so that is 1 divided by object radius. So it should go from 0 to 1, basically, by the radius of the object, which it is doing. And then we need to multiply by the... we need to get the size of the actual object, the size of the... we need to do another multiplying. Ah, man. Multiplying this value by 1 actually just made the shader break. Which is insane, but like, this is what I did. I just multiply by 1. I don't know why it works now. That's silly. If I multiply by 0.1, it goes to nothing. Alright, we'll change this back to multiplying by 1. And see, like, it broke. Multiply by 2. And now it works again. So it's kind of silly. Alright, well, the radius of this thing should be like, 100 or something. Alright, so somehow we've muddled our way to an actual solution to this problem. But basically this thing is off of the middle, like that's where the sun is, and it needs to be, we need to subtract 0.5 and 0.5 to this thing. And we need to create, it's like a float 2. I mean, it's make float 2 value, but I want a constant float 2 value. So it's like one of these, but it's like a material expression. Is there like constant 2D vector? Alright, Jesus Christ. We want to subtract 0.5 and 0.5. It looks like that didn't. Oh, it's. And then that needs to be flipped in the Y. Needs to be inverted. Alright, so it doesn't work when our world position changes. So we're not taking some stuff into account. So we have a good saving point here. So I'm going to go ahead and throw stuff up in version control, and I can always come back to this point later. One of the problems with materials and assets and all that stuff is that you can't really easily checkpoint stuff or undo things after certain points. Well, that's what version control is for. And in a larger project, you'd shelve these files, but I can just check them in. And the issue we're running into right now is that our calculation is happening without taking into account world space. And, well, our calculation is taking into account world space when it should not be taking into account world space. Some big ass cube maps. So the thing that's going to be taking into account world space is the vector right here. So our displacement vector is going to be wrong, and what we're not doing is we need to add our object position, our camera position. And we need to add our camera position in right here is what it looks like. Holy shit, there we are. There's our moon. Our preview is working now. So we just added a texture at a specific spot to our skybox. Well, that's something. Moon. God damn. That's just ridiculous, isn't it? Yeah. It's pretty ridiculous, isn't it? But if this thing actually had like stuff on it, like if we steal the NASA image for this thing, who owns this picture anyway? Who owns this picture of the moon? Taken from photograph by / required with Canon, 20 images, more detailed information about reusing. You are free to share to adapt under the conditions you must attribute. It's under Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike 3 Unported. What the fuck is that? If you remix, transform, or build upon the material, you must distribute your contributions under the same license as the original. Free cultural approved for words. Now, what the fuck does this mean in plain English? Alright, here, this is, I like the TLDR legal.com is freaking amazing for all this crap. So it's basically you can use this for commercial stuff, but you have to include the copyright. You cannot sub-license, place a warranty, or hold liability to the people. So that's kind of a good way to keep track of some basic licensing crap if you don't have a legal department. And if you're like, well, because I don't want to bring anything into the project that I can't actually use, because then you might accidentally forget to remove it and then get yourself into legal trouble later. So that's one of those things. So we can do that, but we'd have to include a copyright. Because it's pretty funny, you can usually find where people like grab crap pretty simply in games. You just like take the first image search on Google